Tags. Hey, what's up? It's John from Coding Addict, and welcome to another Web Dev Power Hour live stream. And as always, I'm joined by one and only Mr. Paul Bratlowski, the developer advocate for Strappy and the mastermind behind YouTube channel Coding After 30. Again, Paul's channel is Coding After 30. How are you, Paul? How's your Friday?
John. Pretty good. How's it going?
I'm
glad
good.
to be here.
Ready for the old man's party?
Exactly. You could tell. You could tell we're old because I'm like, I'm gonna change my hair color, try something new, get some highlights going in the winter. Why not?
Is it
match?
Is it hard to find a good hairdresser in Austin?
So here's the crazy thing. Every hairdresser I went to do highlights, they were like $200. I'm like, are you kidding me? And some of them like $250. I'm like, no way. And so I literally made a friend who she was like, I'll do your hair for free. And so that's what happened. It was like, like let her practice and let me get the benefit of it. Except I didn't know that she'd never done it before. So it was pretty exciting.
But yeah, no, hairdressers is like one of those things that it seems like, well, they're supposed to be in every corner, but then when you actually need them, and you need like whatever stuff, then it turns out that it's not as easy as you thought. If you prefer us in podcast format, you can find us at webdevpowerhour.com, as well as on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just look for Web Dev Power Hour. Before I say about the questions, I really want to apologize about the last week. Literally, as we were about to come on, my youngest one decided to do some projectile vomiting. So as a parent, I decided that, you know what, I think I need to be there. And tonight you might hear some screaming from my oldest one because we're at the stage where we kind of refuse to go to sleep. So yeah, everything's cool. My poor wife is handling all that. So yeah, thanks to her, this podcast is happening. Ask us questions. The preference is going to be, of course, to whoever is on live chat. If no one's asking, then we'll just start going through the questions, and I actually right away can throw Paul in some hot water. Who wants to see that? Who wants to see Paul in some hot water? Okay, do you want to start with a hot with a hot question?
Hard question?
No, hot
topic. Let's do it.
Do you want to start with a question, or you want to start with me throwing you in hot water?
It's all fine. With this hair, I feel like I could do anything. So today,
okay, you know what? Let's just start with a question. It's probably going to be the question itself is actually a layup for you, but the hot water might be not. So basically, the question is like this: issue querying SVG PDF and GIF files in Strappy. Thank you for tutorial. And by the way, this question is from my Udemy course. I have a question regarding adding SVG PDF and GIF files. Oh, God, those ones I can never pronounce properly. The latest Strappy seems to not be able to query these files so easily. Is there a trick to querying these files, Paul?
That's a great question. To be honest, I'm not sure like what the issue this person is having, because to be honest, I haven't tried uploading different files in my recent project, but in the past I feel like it's all handled by the upload plugin. So however you saved it, you will get that data. Like for instance,
so basically there's no like there gotcha or anything like as far as you know, because
as far as I know, no. And I'm gonna give it a try because currently in my project, I allow like the GIF, JPEGs, and they come back fine. But I'm gonna try with PDFs, see if there's something weird happens. But it's literally.
Okay. So is it okay if I guide maybe the person back to your to your the basically stream that you're doing? Not the specific one, but in general, I'll tell them to kind of figure it out.
And he or she could ask that question again. But for me, like, I haven't seen any issues, in terms of like, having issues with that.
So
But
basically,
maybe
as far as you know, it's pretty
it's
much
fine.
as
Yeah, you
straightforward
just
as
get,
it used to be. Yeah, just to give
yeah,
you context, it was we were making a
yeah,
portfolio site with Strappy, and it was straight up images. There was nothing really specific, like nothing out of the ordinary. So I was also a little bit surprised by this question. Why I want
yeah.
to throw you
It
in the
should be
hot
fine.
water because I posted this question on Twitter, actually tagging you. Any ideas or advice? At coding 30, and you
You know
ignored me for 1 week.
what was crazy about that? I swear to God, I wrote my response, and
Oh,
so
now we
recently,
will
what's
blame
been
Elon
happening?
Musk.
No, it's not Elon Musk. What I've started doing, like, I don't know if it's
Is
my
ignoring my questions.
ADHD or something. No, like, I'll start typing something because I did it today on a YouTube comment,
Uh-huh.
and I'll start typing something, and then I'll walk away without hitting send. And that's kind of like what happened to me. Like today, I was like answering comments on YouTube, and I thought I replied to this comment, and then I did my whole thing. I went shopping, I came back, and then I went to YouTube, and then I see like my message, it's like still half typed, and I didn't send it. So like that's something like my spacey brain has been doing. So
You
because
know
I
what,
was kind
Paul?
of surprised, to be honest, that you asked me this question, because in my mind, I literally believed that I already answered it on Twitter, and come to find out, I didn't. Like, I ignored you. I didn't answer the question, and I'm being called out about it right now, which I appreciate. So it's a
No,
reminder
Paul,
to me to
I'll let you slide because I have the
click
same
send.
issue. But for me is I don't even start writing, but let's say if I read a message or email or anything, if I don't reply at that moment, that's it. It's gone.
Yeah, it's
I
insane.
will probably come back 1 month later and be like, oh, and then I usually start with, I really apologize for long delay and blah blah blah. So yeah, we're done with that one. So it turns out that Paul wasn't ignoring me. Uh, hi, John and
It's
Paul.
old age. Just forgetful.
Yeah, that's also a good excuse. Hey, John and Paul, how is React with SEO? Is it friendly with SEO? Yes, if you use the Next.js, who basically provides
Yeah.
right away a component that you can just add everything. And if you're using straight up React, then you can add, I believe the package is React Helmet, something along those
Yeah.
lines.
React
And
Helmet.
again, but that's if you want more as far as SEO, then that's a little bit. I kind of call it the science, like when you
Yeah.
really need to get into like all these nitty gritty stuff. But in general, just for basic SEO, the Next.js or no Gatsby also has it, but I think Next.js is somewhat of a future. Now, what about Remix? Does it have anything like that?
Yeah. I will remix, because you create your own component, and you're able to insert the metadata fairly simply. They have their own way of doing it, but it's like pretty easy. You just get the data and you insert it.
Mm, mm.
It yeah, it's really simple. There is like a specific way of inserting metadata, but it's in their docs. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head, but it's not anything difficult.
Okay, let me uh, kind of give a little bit of analytics. So we have 6 viewers and we have 2 likes, and out of those 6 viewers, we have Alex and Jake, or basically part of our team, and yeah, we've got 4 another. So 6 is good. 6 is good.
Yeah. Now jump to 9. The excitement is amazing. Yeah, like Friday nights, they're tough. Like, I feel like a lot of normal people will be like, let me go out and get wasted, or maybe go out and do normal stuff. You know what I mean? That's, you don't have to like, do crazy stuff. But
Yeah, but
you and I, we're like a totally breed. Like, you're a family man. I'm old, and like, what are we gonna do Friday night except do this
you're a rave
amazing
man.
podcast? Yeah,
You're doing
podcast.
raves in your apartment. But no,
Yeah, I
the
gotta
thing is,
get better at music. Yeah,
the
for
thing is
sure.
with those. Well, I wasn't saying you're bad. I was just saying your music styles are
No, I'm
rave.
saying I should, because I should do live raves on Friday night. I like the idea. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, Yeah, and essentially the thing is, but we're not shooting for normal people. our audience, you know how
Exactly.
every podcast has the audience, so we're not. We're shooting for. Uh, uh, I don't know. I don't know how to even say it properly. Anyway, so we have hi there's. I have a question. Sometimes I got stuck in logic building. Can you please suggest me how I strong my logic building? Uh, this is going to be very generic answer. Building projects. You can probably try. I mean, the one that I hear the most is the lead code, but
Yeah.
again, I 100% agree with Paul, where like with his opinion that listen, if you cannot build anything, then learning algorithms probably is not the
Too early.
place you want to start. Again, that's a take it with a grain of salt. If you want to be a rebel, do that. That's really up to you. I have no issues with that. But in general, just building. Um, there's no secret there. You will build probably the first project or the first iteration of the project, and you'll come back and you'll look at it and you'll like, I can actually do this better. I can, let's say, refactor the code and all that. So with every project, slowly but surely, you'll get better. You'll be looking at the blog posts. You'll be looking at the examples, code examples, and you can get the GitHub Copilot, and life is going to be great. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, 100%. For me, I would say exactly like I said before. If you can't build something, then it's too early for you to dive deep into like algorithms and stuff like that. Unless you're applying to like very specific companies, like anything specific. One site that I actually knew about that I didn't use forever, that is actually perfect for anybody looking to get into front end development, which is something we recommend, is Frontend Mentors, I believe. And what you're able to do, you're basically able to choose a project and you get like this brief of the requirements of what the project is. You get the mockup files in Figma, and then you basically go and build it. And the process of the way they present the thing to you, it's like it would be presented to you at a job. And I feel like that's a great site for people to practice kind of mimicking what would real work look like. And if you could build, the basic and intermediate projects on that website, I would say you kind of could say like, I'm ready to get start applying to get hired. And it's a site that I haven't played with in forever. I knew existed, but I just had a guest come on and she talked about it, and I really like it.
I was about to mention that. By the way, your guest in your interview.
Yeah, to help people get better at building things rather than doing tutorials and being stuck in tutorial hell.
Yeah, that's the front-end mentor is a very good place to practice. And yeah, I just wanted to mention. So last week on Saturday, I noticed that Paul shared he was doing an interview, and I just saw some snippets of it, and that's one of the things that I saw that the good old basically that you always just need to start applying. There's never gonna be right moment, right time. No. You'll always have this like, oh, I'm just gonna learn Mongo, and then I'm gonna be ready. And then as you'll be learning Mongo, then you'll probably learn some other technology or whatever, or you'll decide that, you know what, I just need to build this whatever kick-ass project, and then I'm gonna be ready. And then by the time you have 10 kick-ass projects, you'll still be thinking about applying. So start applying right away. First of all, it just gives you right away a idea what the companies are looking for. That's the best answer. No YouTuber in the world can tell you what the company is going to be asking you in your local area. No one. I mean, unless that person magically lives around the corner. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, this is a good one. Paul has talked about it as also before. Can I take on tutorial creation as a way to learn new development paradigms? Absolutely. That's actually a very good way, whether you decide to write about it in blog posts. I'm more curious about finding out. I think Paul is posting on Dev too, right? Or what's the platform now?
I used to I did like an article. I have my own blog that I post to once in a while. Like, I'm not a good writer, so I don't post much. But I was gonna say, if someone wants to build a reputation and kind of get out there, like, dev.to is a good place to definitely do it.
Yeah, is it? But listen, what? So I am very curious about the process. How do they? What do you basically submit to them? Because they have all the same pretty much style. How does that work? The setting up that blog post.
You
Oh, there's my
basically
best friend.
write it in Markdown,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just submit it, and that's it.
And it
It's
just magically
literally they
works.
don't. Yeah, magically works. They don't. There's no review process. Like, oh my gosh, like you just write your article and you submit it. Like it's fairly simple to do. I feel like if you're starting out, if you have some published articles on those type of websites, you could use it on LinkedIn. Oh, I wrote an article for this. It got this many views or what have you. But you know, I don't do that right now, just because I'm too busy like creating content for my own like thing.
Listen, Paul, I always forget the English words. What's how did you call the? You know, if someone's spamming the, let's say, a feed when they ask totally silly question, how would you call that? If
Troll.
some troll. So
Yeah,
we have
troll.
one troll question. I think you'll find it. At least I found it pretty funny. Good morning, sir. Please, can you tell me the function of console log and what I can use it for? What I can react for. So what can you do with console log in React, Paul?
You could console log things to your terminal, and to see what you put inside the console log.
Yeah, or you know what, you can put console log inside of console log and then see what happens.
That's a good one. I never tried that, but it's probably gonna destroy the world, like and JavaScript or something. Yeah, it's not.
This is gonna be totally out of this world.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got a couple more. Let me just check what's happening. Do we have anything or no? I mean, it's funny. Oh, okay. Maybe we have something. Have you seen something here or no?
No, let's see here. Just the typical stuff.
Oh, Alex is saying that YouTube algorithm is just messing with us. It's not telling people that there's live. Yeah, I think we got too popular and they just got scared. So
yeah, they were like, can't have those.
There's no way those two are gonna be messing up the Friday nights, and then their streams usually go longer, and then it's not a good idea. Celebrate it. Yes, thank you. I'm coding Friday night. Always awesome, Jake. Awesome to hear that. You see, so we want
changing lives.
We want
Friday nights.
Coders on Friday night, right?
Listen, code on Friday, party on Saturday. You know what I'm saying?
Just like Paul.
That is going to be exactly. So Friday and Saturday morning is my streaming time. And like Friday nights I don't sleep much, but it's fine. And then Saturday night if I want to hang out or do something. But hang out. Speaking of hang out, so my friends came down. I forgot, it was like last weekend or 2 weekends ago, and we went downtown to Austin, and we had such a blast. We went to this little shop, and we had lobster rolls. They were so good. I ate 2, and then literally that night I came home and I got so sick, and it was so terrible. So like that was a sign to me that I should like code more and hang out less. I think that's how I took it. It's if I stayed home, I wouldn't have eaten those terrible lobster rolls and gotten sick. I mean, I'm kidding, of course. Like people should go out and have fun, but it was a good experience.
How long did they stay?
They stayed for like 5 days, but 3 of them we were all sick from the lobster rolls we had. But I did because I live outside of Austin. I'm not downtown, but I think next year I'm going to move down closer to downtown. There's like a nice park. There's a nice area. It's cool to walk around. So I think that's going to be my plan.
If you want to have
a social life.
No. What I'm saying is like I saw Paul's post like last week. At some point, he's like putting buildings like, wow, Austin is so cool.
That's a goddamn, yeah.
I'm like, all right. I guess he was like just bypassing all the time the town center.
Yeah, so I live in the suburbs, and so to me it's like I don't like, it's not the city. So like and to me it's like nice quiet neighborhood. It's really cool for what it is. Like the neighborhood I live in is perfect like if you're married and you have kids. If you're not married or have kids, it's not bad, but it's so spread out that if you want to do anything, it's like a pain in the butt. And so for me, like my friends like, Paul, you're single. Why are you still living in a suburb? I'm like, you know what? That is a good point. And so to me, it's like move downtown where everything is within walking distance. Everybody's condensed in one area, and it's just much easier like to meet people. And I figured out, not that people care, wonder, like if you're single, the secret formula apparently is puppies. Because what you need to do is get a puppy and go for walks, and everybody, doesn't matter what and who you like, they all gonna stop and they're gonna ask about your puppy, and it's like a great conversation starter. So like the issue is like I'm a cat person, and so like I might have to be a cat and a puppy person next year, because that's just like I'm lazy, so I don't want to start conversation on my own. So if I have a puppy, it's solved. You know
what
I
if
mean?
you like? Okay, so you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
By the way, I want to jump on a few points that you said, but I just want to start by. So we were driving to the ocean over here, and we're driving through downtown. That's basically the only way how you can get there. My wife sees like a couple of like, they're going with the stroller and everything, and she's like, "Oh, you see, they also have a newborn." And the next thing you know, we're turning a corner and there's a cat in the stroller inside there, all in like,
Nice.
blinged out and everything, and we're like we
Priorities,
because like LA is a big dog town. Like you have hotels for dogs. You have like no, I mean, I think dogs have. By the way, in LA goes dogs and then children. Like people will have more respect for dogs than children. Let's start with that.
And again, priorities.
Yeah, and then I guess in here it's the cats or whatever. But as far as downtown, I totally agree, because we also, like me and my wife, we were just talking recently that when we moved from Chicago like 5 years ago, like before kids, LA was one thing, and then when you get kids, it's totally not what you had when you before them, and it's the same here. Like Sarasota downtown is actually very awesome. It's really like, and we were like looking at, you know what? If you don't have kids, it's an amazing place to live. But once you get the kids, like as I'm looking at those apartments, I'm like, no way, I'm doing that. You know, so it's like the kid is, those little buggers change everything always. So,
no, and it's perfectly fine. But like you said, it's a different lifestyle, and there's different environments that are better for it. And so like the area that I live in, like I'm surrounded literally by married people with kids everywhere. And there's nothing wrong with that, except if you like have kids, there's better places to live. And if you don't have kids, there's more appropriate places to live. So, for me, and I love living in the city, and, like, I think it'll be good next year to live closer to one.
One last thing I wanted to ask you. So, as far as I know, Boston is basically big for seafood and everything. What about Connecticut? Because it's somewhere close. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, like, it depends who you talk to. Like, obviously, like, there's like, it's big on seafood, but to me, like, I'm not like I don't like, I love seafood, but it's not like a life-changing experience for me. But there's some people in Connecticut, they're like, oh, it's the greatest seafood ever, and like they just go all like crazy about it. Like, and then they'll say like, I won't eat seafood or anywhere else if it's not like, I mean, like Maine, that's the big one. Like it's close, but like Maine seafood, people are like, oh my God, it's the greatest, and people will drive. And to me, it's like, it's just fish.
No. We really like seafood, but there's one thing that there's pretty much everything we like about Florida. It's exactly what we wanted, and it's exactly what we were expecting. But food here is horrible as far as restaurants.
Oh, wow.
Totally not worth it. I don't know why. It's always been like that. I remember when we used to come here for vacation, it was the same, and we were like, I mean, and that's what's crazy, that the prices here are pretty much more than in LA, which is totally like, I don't understand that. But again, it's not the end of the world. We don't go all the time, but yeah, it's just something to mention if somebody's planning to move to Florida. I'm not sure you'll.
Restaurants.
Yeah, I don't know why. I seriously
That's
don't
weird.
Understand why.
I think if you go eat Cuban food, that's probably going to be good. Like, I'm sure they have some good Cuban restaurants. You tried, and you should ask them if they're real Cubans. I'm not just saying that. I ate Cuban food, and it's good.
I know.
How could you not have good Cuban food? That's all I'm saying.
Okay, back to
I was going to quickly answer the fish thing. Fish, I guess my preference on fish, like if they caught it like literally like before they prepared it, then it's like amazing. Like recently, like caught fish. Like that's how like I enjoy seafood. So when I went to Thailand, like you literally go and they're just like, hey, this is the fish we just caught. Which one do you want? And then when they make it fresh, you're like, oh, it's so good.
No, I mean Thailand. I assume I haven't been there, but I can imagine that in there the food is totally
food is
different
delicious.
level and everything.
And then sushi in Taiwan is really good too. Just if people are wondering.
Have you ever had poke?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Our me and my wife's favorite, and that's yeah. But the problem here, there's like none of the like they're anyway. Not to be negative on this lovely, awesome Friday night.
The best.
Okay, let's get back to the questions. I will. I want to answer definitely this one, and then I'll jump back to the chat. From your point of view, what skills should a junior front-end developer have in order to be considered hireable in a company? What kind of tasks are expected from him/her to work on complete? Best regards and keep up the good work, guys. Okay, so for me, again, it really depends on the company. Like there's one company that is essentially gonna give you a. I'm first. Let's separate the two. We're talking about the actual work and when we're talking about hiring process, right? So hiring process. There's one company who's just gonna give you maybe a Figma file and say, hey, can you build this in HTML and CSS? Maybe they will ask you to do this in React. And there's going to be another company who's going to decide that basically they'll take the hardest lead code question. They'll just throw it in front of you, even though it's not going to be something that you're going to be doing. So it really depends. And it's kind of I would even say like a little bit like a lottery. You literally, like one company can be, you can go to there and you're like, look, my skills are awesome, like depending on whatever assessment you gave me. And then the other one, you're like, okay, I don't understand anything you're asking for. So
yeah,
again, for me, it kind of starts with, I would definitely say, can you make a working, let's say, project or whatever based on some kind of, I'll call this Figma file. Let's just go from there because I think mostly that's what people are using right now. So can you take a mockup and can you build that? Again, most likely not every nitty gritty, functionality, but at least the look and everything. That's as far as hiring. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. We talk about this a lot. One is like you should be able to take a mock-up and bring it to reality by building it with either HTML, CSS, and JavaScript or React, but basically going from Figma to your like thing that you build. And then the second thing is being able to generate that data from like an API or from some sort of endpoint you're hitting. So you could kind of show that you understand like, okay, I could create this website, but I also understand that data lives somewhere in the database and you get it served through JSON. And how do you take that JSON data and render it to screen dynamically based on the response? So those are the two things I would say, like, you should have to do.
And if you want to challenge yourself more, basically, if you want to showcase more of your skills, you can also learn the HTTP verbs and understand how you can post, put, and delete. That's going to be kind of a next step, because pretty much at this point, probably most of the people that are going for a job, they will also know the get. But if you know those other HTTP verbs and how to set up essentially functionality when you're sending already data to the server, that's already going to be a big plus. And as far as the what kind of tasks are expected, again, it's totally going to depend what the company is doing. Maybe it's a small team, they're just starting the project and they're just hiring the team, so they want more kind of hands on the deck. If it's a big company, most likely they might put you on some old code base where essentially you'll be dealing with bugs. I mean, there's tons of variations here. It's very hard to like specifically say like what exactly you're going to be doing. Like Paul can testify this, and probably every company you went for is was like totally different of direction where you can start. Anything to add?
No. That's a good point. An interesting thing I was thinking, like slightly changing topics for a bit, just because it popped into my head. That's how it works. Otherwise, I'll forget and won't respond like I won't on Twitter. But I started, people talk about layoffs. A lot of companies are laying off or doing hiring freezes. And so I've started to see people who are still employed, but they're already putting their resumes out there. It's like they're testing the waters to see if they were to be laid off, like, can they get another job easily, or at least start looking and see what opportunities like exist. And I thought about it, and it was like that interesting like conversation that happened in my head. It's like, we are not guaranteed our work, we're not guaranteed our future. So like, what can you do to kind of stack the deck in your favor of doing things? Like, basically don't take the current job you have for granted, because you don't ever know when it's going to end. And so people should constantly, I feel, be doing things to continue to build their reputation, their network, to consistently kind of understand the lay of the land when it comes to hiring. So like, which is something I didn't do for a while, because I'm now thinking, even though you might have a job that you like, everything is great, you should at least be active on actively seeing what opportunities there. So you always have like your finger on the beat of like what is happening, to be able to make a switch if you have to. That was like the longest thing I just said. Jesus.
There's actually a very good podcast episode about this. Remember I told you that I started listening to that JavaScript A Jabber one?
Yeah.
And I think it's not the latest one. The latest one is a little bit different. But the one before that, were basically, you'll see the list of latest episodes, and then they talk about what to do, how to prevent, essentially, how to be the last one to be fired or whatever. Now, they mostly go into the points of like, essentially that, you shouldn't be sitting on Twitter at the job and actually doing your work. But it's definitely the case where you, like, let's say, get hired for an awesome position, but you don't know of like what technologies, as far as when you're like the ones that you're using at your work, how much is that basically relevant. Now, I'm not saying that everything goes out the window, and of course you gain tons of knowledge and everything, and it also doesn't mean that you constantly need to be like coding for 80 hours a week. But it's just like Paul said, basically keep the check of what's happening, right? If there's some, like, if you can see, like, let's imagine this scenario. You're working with React or whatever, and maybe even Next at your work, but you're not using TypeScript, and you can see it slowly creeping, and it's getting more popular and more popular and more popular. It kind of makes sense to at least be like, okay, maybe let me just learn, like, understand the idea or whatever, instead of being like, nope, I'm not using it at my work, so I don't really need it. Again, should you be going nuts in Saturday, Sunday? No, but at least, have that little bit of time where you're like, okay, this technology is going down, this is going up, this is getting more popular, this makes more sense, just to be kind of aware of the whole thing. But
yeah, another thing I realized, I know this is like, another thing that some people know this and some people don't, but I'm just gonna repeat it and say it again. When we lose our job, we feel this discomfort, like, oh, that means I can't pay my bills, that means like now I have to freak out because I don't know how long I could live off my savings. And so an important part to kind of manage your stress, and it's something that obviously take work, but I think people should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up, where you could at least pay your bills for like 3 months, 6 months. And I know that's a hard goal. I'm not saying it's going to happen like overnight, but I feel like when people have that, when they lose their job, it just doesn't affect them the same. You know what I mean? And I feel like people that, for whatever reason, don't do that when they lose their job, because they're living month to month, they're freaking out, they're stressed out. Where if you have that buffer, which I recommend a lot of people should strive towards getting, then when you lose your job, it's not a big deal, because you're like, well, at least for next 3 months, next 6 months, all my living expenses are paid. I'm going to be okay. And then now I could focus not on stressing, but focus on doing the things that I need to do to get my next opportunity, to get my next job. So I feel like the big issue with that, it's not oh, I lost my job. It's like, I lost my job and I can't pay my bills. But if you could pay your bills, then it's like almost like, I'll find something else. But most people, statistically don't have that buffer where they could take advantage of that.
No, that's definitely the case. And when I know it's one of those Captain Obvious things, but at least for me, when I first time heard it, it kind of made a lot of sense. The best time to do it is essentially when you right away get that, let's say, or okay, maybe not right away, but the moment when you, let's say, go from that low paying job to a better one as a developer. Let's imagine that, right? So you just switch to developer. Don't let the lifestyle kind of creep happen. And what does lifestyle creep means? Essentially, the moment you start making more money, right away you decide that you're just gonna start having more bills, and this is the worst thing that you can do, because essentially it's not gonna. I mean, not to start giving you lifestyle like life advices or whatever, but it's not gonna probably make you more happier. All the whatever stuff. And actually, the difference you could just put away, like Paul said, to have those 3 months and everything. Because again, it's very easy the moment you get your bigger paycheck, be like, oh yeah, I need this, and essentially what happens, you just get more and more and more bills, and at that point becomes kind of irrelevant. You can get as much as money you want. You'll be constantly spending and going back to that starting position.
So here's the crazy thing. Like, so I used to work with this guy, and he talked about this concept called the wedge, where it's like whatever your lifestyle is at the moment, let's say now, as you start making more money, what you need to do is put a wedge between your spending and your savings. So he said, don't let your cost of living go up. Like, as long as you're able to meet your bills, just because you make more money doesn't mean you have to upgrade your car, you have to upgrade your house, or whatever that stuff, because what you need to do is keep your cost of living the way it was and just save more or invest more. And to me, that was an important lesson, because imagine you start getting more money, and you just keep spending more money. And then something in your life happens, and all of a sudden you go back to making low income again. For whatever reason, you can't get hired. And now your expectation of a lifestyle is so high that it's going to create all this unnecessary stress. So for me, like, I have a very basic, like, okay, how much money do I need to make a year for me to be comfortable, right? And outside of that, like everything else, it's like save towards your future, invest towards your future, because after a certain point, it's like, how much more stuff do you need? At least that's how I look at it. I might try to have the peace and quiet. And I remember a while back, before I switched careers, like I saved up like 6 months of, and my cost of living was like a lot cheaper, 6 months of like living expenses. And that allowed me to like go and stay in Thailand for like 3 months, without any care, without any worry. And I think having that type of plan where you could survive for 3 months, 6 months based off your savings, is huge, because you literally like alleviate stress. Like, one of the lessons I learned, that stress comes from stuff and things that are a surprise. Like your car breaks down, it's like a huge bill. Oh my God, it's stressful. It's a surprise. Why? Because you didn't have enough money in the bank to fix the car, and you now have to put it on credit, or something else happens and now it's like an issue. But it's an issue because you didn't plan for it, and it's a surprise. Like, if you have 3 to 6 months of like emergency fund for living expenses, any surprise, yeah, it sucks, but it's not like a life-ending situation. And so a lot of people, like, they focus more on, I'm going to focus on coding, I'm going to focus on this, focus on that, but there's other parts of your life that alleviate and make it easier. Like, understand your finances. No matter how much money you make, learn to manage your money well, and then all the other stresses in life that come from losing your job or like whatever, like, they're not going to be as serious. And this is why, like, for me, a lot of people say, I'm going to learn to code to fix my money problems. And no, like, money problems is separate. Like, you should be able to fix your money problems regardless, like, what type of job you have, right? So if you take someone who can't manage money and they win a lotto, $1 million, 6 months after that, all that money will be gone, because they don't know how to manage that money. I've seen that happen, not with $1 million, but I had a friend win $60,000 on a scratch off, which was like oh my gosh, I didn't know that was possible. He spent that money in 3 days, bought a new car, and then went partying with a bunch of his friends, and like 60 grand was gone. And then what happened, like he totaled his car and he couldn't afford to fix it. So like basically within like a short period of time, that 60,000 that he came to his life left just as fast as it came. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's 100%. And I see Engine Boy talk about Rich Dad Poor Dad book, which is a great book, even though it's a fictional story. No matter what people say, there's literally really good lessons out there.
I don't know. Like as far as like I don't know, the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was like, yeah, there's definitely like that was my first book. So after that, when I read the other ones, I was just like,
yeah, that I mean, there's literally 2 lessons in that book. Number 1, pay yourself first. Number 1. That's it. If you do that, you're good. And then number 2, I don't remember. So the most important lesson is, this is what people have to do, is you have to like pay yourself first, you know. And another book I read, which again, don't read it because I'll tell you the lesson about it like right now. It's called Automatic Millionaire, I think it's called, or something like that. Along those lines. And basically it says, make your savings automatic. So I used to have hard time managing. I didn't know this was going to be like manage your money podcast, but I had like really hard time managing my money because it was always like a process I had to do. And so what I ended up doing is basically setting up automatic things like, before I see my check, this percentage of money is going to go to saving, this is going to go to this automatically. So I don't do anything. So all I have to do is just live my life. And because I made this process of dividending my money automatically, I don't think about it. It just happens. And so, 10% off the top of my paycheck gets saved towards my retirement. Like another thing goes towards my bill, another thing goes to like whatever, and I don't worry about it. And to me, that's been the biggest change. Pay yourself first and make it automatic.
Okay, let's switch to web dev. But before we do, yes, essentially at any point, I also suggest always money management is a thing, in my opinion, that should be taught actually in school, because we all of us learn that later in life when it's
hard
I don't want to. It's way harder than it if it was in 20s, let's say. Anyway, we have one super chat. Thank you very much. And essentially the question is, John, please make courses on React Native, MongoDB, and Git. Yeah, React Native maybe. MongoDB most likely not.
Next.js, TypeScript. Next.js, TypeScript. That's
also Git, no, because listen, MongoDB is not something that I'm particularly interested. I like to use it to spin up the API quickly. That's a good use case, but in general, I'm not really into ins and outs of MongoDB. Git as well. I know that there's some other courses out there already, and I haven't watched them, but I'm pretty sure that they're good. So that's not something that I would want to do, unfortunately. React Native, yes, but that's like one of those things that I want to make tons of courses, and yet at the same time, I have barely time to update the current React course. So unfortunately, that's how life goes right now.
Pick your battles. Pick your battles. So Cold Steel has a good Git course, like if anybody's looking for. But the thing I was going to say, what I've noticed, a lot of instructors that do have multiple courses, they have courses that they didn't create themselves. They have somebody else create, and they just do an intro and an outro for it, because it's really hard to manage the things. Because the best thing you could do as a course creator to keep people happy is to create fewer courses and make sure they're updated. I think in my mind, that's the winning strategy. Because if you try to do too much, because I've had courses that I bought from other instructors that they had a lot of courses and half of them are not updated. And that's really frustrating for me. And so I feel like you have a good plan where you're like, I'm going to do the few things that are in demand, but I'm going to do them really well. And to me, that's the approach I would take. And so, like, if I were to imagine what course would John create, it would be either TypeScript or Next.js next, because those are two things that are still fairly popular. And widely used.
No, for sure, and that is the case where you always wanna make sure that all the stuff is up to date, and that's definitely have been the case. Trust me, like last few months, Redux Toolkit made some updates. Axios made the updates, whatever. So I had to go through pretty much scroll through each video and make sure that that actually makes sense and that hasn't changed or whatever. But yeah, the people are upset when they're like, "Well, we're waiting for this Next.js course already for so long," and I'm like, okay, I understand it's upsetting, but there's not much, I kind of just drop everything and then be like, okay, I'm just gonna do this one. What else? What else? So we have turns out that Alex is actually very stressed out. Well, Alex, it might help if you would work less. I think your schedule is like a warrior
and sleep
there.
More.
And sleep more.
Yeah,
You know
sleep
what?
more, I think.
Everyone's suggesting you like, he's asking for yoga books and everything. Yeah, Alex, just try with like sleeping more. Maybe going to bed at 10 and waking up at 3:30 every day is not the
a good
best
strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate you here on Fridays, but how about no? I mean, for you it's Saturday, but how about this during the week? You don't do that. You just do that on whatever. Okay, we have one more in the chat that I want to answer quickly. Is it enough with your YouTube 10 hours JavaScript course to begin React, or do I have to acquire more JavaScript stuff? If you're starting from total basics, no, because I would then suggest if you did the 10-hour course, follow up with those JavaScript nuggets. So I have just like a scattered, they're not scattered, they effectively cover all kinds of JavaScript methods that are used in React and that will make your life easy in React. Yeah, hopefully I didn't say that twice. But essentially, if you have finished those 10 hours, you know the basics, you understand the variables and all that. Now, again, you haven't covered what are arrow functions and rest of the stuff. So that's why you should probably just watch those JavaScript nuggets, and then you can definitely start with React. Yeah. What else? What else? I think we had one more. So watch your web, and I don't. I make more money, much happier. Okay. Hello, John. I'm not sure if you'll see this. Yes, I will see this. But a few years ago, I was in very bad finances and life position, and I found and watched your web dev tutorials. I don't do web dev anymore, but you started me on a path to tech. I'm making more money, and I'm much happier now and starting a family from bottom of my heart. Thank you. Awesome. It's great to hear that. Technology did the same thing, especially coding to me. Pretty much brought me from bad situation to a situation which I enjoy. So I'm happy to hear that the videos helped in any way. Blah blah blah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we have more questions. So maybe we can switch quickly to the ones in the post. Okay. Let me see what we have here. Okay, we have how to go about MERN-Stack app with 3 users in different roles. What are the best approach? Yeah, it's unfortunately kind of I can give you a very generic answer. It's not going to be very helpful. It's you should check for a role.
Technical question. That's hard to do, especially if you're not able to like demonstrate stuff either. It's like,
oh, Paul is gonna love this, and I like. Oh, well, maybe I saved the best for last. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. My question goes to Paul. See, you complained that you're getting questions about me in your channel. Well,
I get questions about
here's
me.
The
Fantastic.
opposite. My question goes to Paul. Does one have to learn SQL first before learning Strappy?
No, you don't. You don't have to learn SQL first. But I feel like once you start learning Strappy and you start working with it, you're going to organically start learning more about SQL, especially once you like, I need to make some very specific queries. And that's a great segue to start learning. But I feel like anybody who's doing front end, they should be familiar with the type of databases out there and understand the basics meaning that you understand what a database is, you understand how it works with a backend, how the backend will query the data, and then you'll return it to an endpoint in JSON. But as far as front end goes, but if you're going to do backend, yeah, then you definitely have to learn SQL. But my recommendation for anybody switching jobs into a new career, start with the front end. That's the fastest way to, I believe, get hired. But if you are doing backend, you will need to learn a bunch of database languages, SQL being one of them.
Yeah, I just want to add something that everyone again keeps suggesting all these solutions to Alex, but they just keep ignoring the main one. Alex, you need to go to sleep. So drop the chat and go night night. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, sleep is gonna do wonders, Alex. We have two more.
Listen, I was gonna say he's looking for a good yoga. So like the best part about yoga, it's called, I forgot what the dead pose, where you end class by laying still on the floor with your eyes closed. I think he should just do that for 8 hours. I think that's what Alex needs to do. He just needs to do that last part of yoga for 8 hours, and you'll be good. Don't try to shortcut the body's process to like deal with stuff. And if you're not sleeping enough, that's the first thing to fix. And that's something I'm guilty of. And so there's like the weekends, there's times where I sleep terrible, but majority of the time I'm like 7 to 8 hours. Like the least amount of sleep I need is 7. Otherwise, if anything less than that, that'll be terrible.
No, as far as he's writing here about patience, and I can definitely attest that with the 2 small toddlers. But you know what? I don't know how it is for you, Paul, but for me, I have worked on all kinds of these, how to work on whatever patience and whatnot. You know what? What the only thing that helps me is being totally exhausted. And what I mean by that, that's why I enjoy jujitsu. That I literally can go. Today we had an open mat, and I just come home and I have so little energy that like as opposed to when I have a bunch of energy, then some things might just piss me off. When you have no energy, it's like I don't care. It's
whatever.
fine.
It's like, no big deal.
It's okay. I can talk in normal voice. I don't have to like kind of raise my voice and none of that. As far as again, I'm talking about 2 small toddlers that can be sometimes annoying and everything. But yeah. So and as far as Alex, I don't know, man, how I would do that with little sleep, because when I don't sleep, that's if I sleep like 5 hours and whatnot, then I'm pretty easy to be ticked off.
Yeah.
About any smallest thing.
Anything under 5 hours, the next day for me is going to be terrible. Like I'm not going to be as productive at work. I'm going to make bad decisions about eating or anything health related. And so for me, it's just like if I could avoid it by sleeping a little bit more, that's the path I would take. And there's been times where I'm like, man, like I'm really tired. I need to sleep, and I will just we'll just go to sleep because I know that's the only thing that's going to fix it. You can't burn the candle at both ends and expect things to work.
Okay, we have 2 questions. Doesn't Strappy use Prisma?
No, it does not. We have our own implementation of the things and how it works under the hood. If you were to create your own backend, relying on Prisma to get some of that heavy lifting is a good idea. But if you've never done calling database directly, I would probably not use Prisma until you kind of learn how it works on your own. For instance, I building an application where with Koa, where I'm talking to a backend and not going as far as like raw queries, but you could use like, let's say connects, which you're able to directly talk to SQL. So like starting something that is more hands-on rather like Prisma. Like Prisma to me is like magic. It gets so much of the stuff done for you and so easy to implement.
Okay, we have one that's actually for Alex, and he answered the question, but not he didn't say yes or no. So essentially, Jake has a good one. What is harder, front end or back end? And the reason why I say Alex because he started as a front end developer, now he works as a back end one. So I would be very curious. I know that he likes both of them. I actually know that he likes the back end better, at least based on our conversations. But I would be curious, like what is essentially like which one is harder? Because I don't know. Honestly, like I do like backend better because it's more code, so you don't have to deal with
the design.
CSS and whatever all that stuff. I mean, if you already have the essentially a mock-up, okay, that's one thing. But if you have to come up with all that, then I don't know.
In my opinion, is just if you have 6 months to learn something, front end, you will go farther in the first 6 months. Like obviously you could become an expert front-end developer and like learn like how to do crazy animations and all this other crazy stuff, but that you could do after the fact. But you're not going to go as far of like learning the same amount of backend in 6 months because it's so much broader. There's so much stuff that you have to know. And so to me, like I feel anybody looking to get started, the quickest path is to go with front end. And if you hate it and you want to go just back end, just make sure that you plan accordingly because you will have to learn like more stuff related to backend development that goes to, not only being able to code your backend, being able to be very comfortable with databases, how to troubleshoot stuff when stuff goes wrong with databases, and understand the deployment process and how like internet works in general and how servers work and how to deploy stuff and troubleshoot it. And that's why I believe backend, it's cool, but it just requires a lot more time to learn.
No, I'll bring something up that we already discussed it, I believe, few podcasts ago, and it was basically this, that there was on Twitter a guy posted that he saw kind of too many applicants for the same front end jobs, and essentially he just went the PHP route. I keep saying like, oh, it would be awesome to invite people here, and then usually what happens, it's like Friday night, and I'm not sure how much people would be interesting to show up here. But I just asked him like, hey, which courses you use? And essentially he just, because I'm always curious on PHP, and he just kind of listed like 3 general resources on YouTube, which was just interesting. And
wow,
if you do, like, you can go against the grain, but the same pretty much as front end, but I think you need to be like plan more. You need to make sure that, hey, listen, that actually this back end is used where like, so I will have some kind of jobs. And what is the plan? Like what resources I'm going to use and all that. Yes, you will learn things as you go. As you start, let's say, learning something, you'll find out about more resources and all that. But some general idea, I think you should have before. Otherwise, you'll just gonna be all over the place, and that's not a good sign. But it is an option because yes, definitely you'll have less kind of, I would say, competition, because for front end most likely you have more. But again, it's not as one-sided, because at the same time companies can be like, well, you have no experience either, so I mean, it really can go both ways.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this brings me back to like the thought, like as a learning front-end development and using websites like front-end mentors, like you're literally able to build your experience by building those projects and to kind of get kind of see where you stack up in terms of your skill. And I, wish I had that site and used it earlier, which I didn't. But I see a lot of people starting to use it, and it literally mimics the process of what you would be doing if you were working as a front-end developer. And I literally could see if someone is able to complete their junior and intermediate projects, like you're definitely at a point where you are going to get hired. And I think the most important thing for people to consider is like, like when you're switching careers, do you just want to get into the industry as fast as possible, or do you have the time to take? So like if someone is wanting to make a career switch, front-end development is by far the fastest way of doing it, even though there's more competition, some people say. Doing backend, to me, it's already not a junior position. There's the lot that goes into it. So maybe someone could learn front-end like from 6 months to a year. For me, like learning backend well and being productive, it's like a year to 2 years. It's just more stuff involved. And so people have to make a decision. And if someone hates front end and they want to go into back end, just have realistic expectations that it's going to take some time. There's more work I'm going to have to do, and just do it, and you'll get hired eventually. But if someone's trying to make a life switch quickly, I still believe front end is the fastest way to do it.
Okay, how are you doing on time, Paul?
I'm good. I got some 10 minutes. If you
Sorry,
like.
by the way, my apologies to everyone who's listening. Why I'm coughing, because I think that I picked up some allergies here in Florida. So yeah, most likely that's what I'll be doing in the future podcast as well. You have more time for more? One?
Yeah. Let's do some more.
Okay, so we have what is GraphQL and how does it work with React? Also, do I need to learn it as a front-end dev? Simple, like let's start with the back. No, you don't need to learn to be a front-end dev.
Yeah,
it's a nice plus, but not to use this kind of terminology, but it's, let's just put it, it's not maybe as popular as it was.
It used to be, yeah.
I don't
REST
wanna...
is making a comeback. I mean, it never left. REST never left, but I'm just, let me rephrase it. REST never left, and now REST has even more reasons.
I don't want to be accused again of
awesome.
the gatekeeper. First time in my life when I posted about that jQuery, that it's hilarious. Ridiculous it's ridiculous to charge $10,000 for the bootcamp and teach jQuery because I said that I was called the gatekeeper. Like I don't understand where and how, but he seemed like one of those Twitter.
You're keeping people from making bad decisions and learning jQuery in 2022. But, I mean, seriously.
But the person who left that comment seemed like a Twitter warrior. So it seemed like he had no interest because I reposted kind of my answer to what I did, like because I just explained what I was doing to pretty much in the next post, and I reposted it as all my answers because I was too lazy to go on each answer. But he seemed like he just wanted to have that little moment of like happiness to call me gatekeeper and just run away. Yeah.
I use Twitter like I block people I don't care for. I
block
everybody that I don't care for. Like my Twitter is, if you go on it, like you don't see the news. It's only like code related stuff and the people that like I'm interested in, because everybody else I block. I don't care, because I control the conversation, because I want to have and use Twitter for the power of good, where I decide what I want to see. You know what I mean? And most people, they go on Twitter just to troll and shit posts and do all this other stuff. And to me, it's just like not useful. I'm like too old for that. And so just because someone can't say something to you doesn't mean that they should. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of my policy, is create Twitter experience in a way that matches you. And then if there's someone that is engaging with you in a way that you just don't feel comfortable or just don't like it, like Twitter, yes, all for freedom of speech. But at the same time, as an end user of Twitter, I control the people that I want to see. And so you have that choice. And so for me, I look at Twitter as like the extension of my home. And like, if I would invite someone in my home, I don't want them on Twitter. And people like, well, you're using Twitter wrong. Well, that's how I use Twitter. So I don't care.
Well, how would you describe GraphQL? Because you have more experience.
What I would say, like, the biggest draw for GraphQL back in the day was you're preventing underfetching and overfetching, which was really, really hard to do with REST before. And also taking related data there in REST used to be, you would have to, like, let's say, make a request to a user, and then you would have to endpoint, and then you'd have to make a request to the products endpoint, where then you get the products for that user. Where in GraphQL, you're able to make that all in one query, where you're able to get the user and their products. But now the way REST has been evolving, you're able to do something similar to that. Like in Strapi, we have our populate query and our filters, which you could pass in your REST, and you could find those relationships by making one call. So you're literally not getting the benefit that GraphQL used to have of overfetching, underfetching, or only getting the data that you need, because REST has evolved and the modern use of it, there's ways that you're able to do a similar thing. And so for us, I used to be a huge GraphQL person, And then when I saw how REST is working in Strapi version 4, I just started using REST more because it was literally able to do almost everything that GraphQL can. There's few cases that GraphQL works better or has use cases for, and that's when you're doing like data, like I think it's called like federation, where you're trying to get a bunch of different data and create like a unified response, or using subscriptions. I think GraphQL has, which is another cool feature. But if you're not using those two things, like you'll be fine with REST.
Okay, we have time for one more. One more.
One more. We could do it.
So the last one we have for Tammy. So Tammy is asking here. One, of course, now I lost that question. John, besides React, what specifics should be learned for front-end dev? And like, it's funny, like, considering the as the conversation goes, because Alex starts answering and he says HTML and CSS and CRUD, which is I totally agree with. And then it turns out that Tammy was more asking about like after React and whatever. So I actually agree with Alex that there's not much you can specifically learn after React, right? I mean, again, we're talking about front end dev here.
Yeah.
If let's say if you want to build more kind of full stack projects, that's already a totally different ball game. So then you're going into the whatever backend you're going to use, whatever database you're going to use, and all that type of stuff. But as far as just React, there's not much. Like, that's why it's also sometimes people ask me like, oh, can you make more advanced React course? And it's like, well, it's not much going to be more advanced. You're just going to build more like advanced projects with it. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, okay, so these hooks we use when we're like basic, like use state and then whatever, use effect, and then use ref is when we are totally advanced. It doesn't work that way. You'll still doing the same thing. It's just you're going to be making more complex projects. Now, for those more complex projects, you'll need the backend, like we always say. So either you can go with Strapi, or you can like learn your own stuff, but then you become a full stack developer. But as far as the front end, the only thing you'll need to do is just build. Yeah. Using React. In my opinion, there's no like kind of technology that you can learn to I don't know, to be better or whatever.
Yeah, no, and like Alex says, once you get React down, start applying, start trying to get your first job. That's always been something we said here. And if someone is just sticking to front end, what I would say, if you already should be applying, but if you're like, okay, I know React really well, I could build any like mock-up super easily, I get it, it makes sense to me. If you wanted to add like additional thing that you could learn that would add some brownie points for you, is do some testing, like front end testing, to kind of understand how it works. I don't think it's a hard requirement, because every job that I had, like as a junior developer, they would automatically put you on testing or like doing like small features, or so you learn on the job. But I feel like if someone wanted to kind of add another skill for their front end developer to make it more well-rounded, is understand the basics of doing like testing, like unit tests, and then doing like the end-to-end testing.
Yeah, and I mean, then like technically you can say Next.js, but the reason why I'm not saying it is simply because it's great to know Next.js and use it to build better projects. But I don't think, again, it depends on job market, but most likely they will be asking for React, and then they go from there. It depends whether they even like use Next.js and all that. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, it was good
for being a trooper, and hopefully we didn't overstay your welcome. And
no.
So
no, it's good.
Thank you, everyone who showed up. Thank you, everyone who asked the questions, participated in the chat, left a like. We got whole 20 likes.
No, that's good. That's a lot of likes. 20 is a big number.
And it was an awesome Friday night. We mostly talked about money management, which is a very, very good topic. Which will get you further than than coding.
Here's the thing, like I know we kind of went on a tangent with that money management thing, but I talked to people where like they have like their habits well, that they're like, oh, I have enough money to not worry about work, so I could take this boot camp and just focus on it. Where they have to make ends meet and study, it's very hard. So like, I know it's completely off topic, but I think money management is, like you were saying, John, like they should teach it more in school, and it's such a valuable skill that makes a lot of your life less stressful when you have to think about like, what should I learn to become a developer, like, or what I need to do this. Like, if money is always an issue, no matter what you do is going to be hard. Like, if you don't have money to eat like for next 5 days, it doesn't matter if you're coding, it doesn't matter if you're doing anything, it's going to be hard, because it's just the way it is.
For sure. And I also, I forgot that Paul's live stream is right after this. So
yeah,
everyone who's at the party and who's having an awesome time, we have an after party at Paul's house right now.
And in 20 minutes,
you'll meet two awesome cats.
And I have a guest on. I forgot I was having a guest until like,
are you kidding me?
Like not too long ago. I was going to do something else, and I was like, oh, I have a guest. See, that's what I'm telling you. I'm very forgetful. It wasn't that I didn't want to respond to your question, is that I really forgot.
I know, Paul. I just need to bust your balls for something.
It's good. It's good. Just but I'm just reminding myself that I have a guest today, and we're going to talk about
who's the guest.
Code, and it's one of the members from community, Spearbell, and that's his like handle, and he does a bunch of Web3 stuff, and open source stuff. And so I do want to get his take of what it's like, because to me, like, I'm not sold on Web3, but
Web3 is a can of worms that I don't want to open.
If he's making it work, and people can, but to me, like, I go like earlier, Alex was asking, like, what do I invest in? Like, I just invest in mutual funds. Like, I don't try to be like very like tricky or whatever. I do have like one fund where it's like money I would have spent, let's say, on drinking or something stupid. I'll just use that. And that portfolio, I have like, not like a lot of shares, because it's like factual shares. So I don't even have one share of like certain companies, but I have like Google, Tesla, Amazon, Meta, Nvidia, and AMD. And to me, like, it's like those companies will do whatever they do as long as like life goes on. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to put a little bit of money in there. But very small amount of money even goes into that investment. My biggest thing is just like things that are safe and easy, and I don't have to worry about. So mutual funds. And it's like the same thing why I didn't jump on the Web 3.0 bandwagon, because I'm like, it's still wild west. They're still trying to figure stuff out. So I'm just going to do stuff on Web 2.0. It's safe. I know that there's still jobs. I know that I could get hired. And so I always take the safe route, until things change.
Speaking of money, the one last thing that I want to mention. So I just posted the link to Mad Scientist. It's essentially a podcast about, again, everything that we talked about for during this episode as far as saving money. And from there, you'll find a bunch of great resources. That was also something that I was, when I was like researching all this, like essentially how to stay within the limits of what you're spending and what are the suggestions and how effectively you can make sure that you don't have that lifestyle creep and all that. There's tons of, like, if you listen to a few guests and everything, you'll get the blog posts that they're setting up and everything. And there's tons and tons of great resources. So if you're curious about this whole like saving money thing and whatever, I think that you'll find it extremely useful. Madscientist.com.
Nice. I see.
Yeah.
Alex, quickly, he's making fun of me. He's like, what, mutual funds cost more money, by the way. Go Vanguard. Vanguard has the lowest fee mutual funds.
I think they have a pretty big, I think it's not that easy in Europe to buy it as far as index funds and all that. I think it's a little bit more complicated than here.
Yeah.
Anyway, we need to let Paul go. Again, thank you, Paul.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you, everyone. Awesome. It was an awesome Friday night. As always. Party is going wild around here. And yeah, we'll see everyone next week, and we'll continue delivering this awesome podcast.
Every time I put a Twitter, I'm like the best
The
web dev.
best.
Like
the best.
I'm just gonna go that route,
But
regardless of what it is.
One last thing I want to add. I think as I'm looking at the web dev podcast, I'm noticing that a bunch of them are starting. They do like I don't know, like 15 episodes, and then they die off. And I think that the way we'll get to the top, we'll just stay forever on this Friday live stream. So anyway, yeah, that's the plan.
Nice.
Let me close the chat and everything. And it was awesome to see everyone. And I'll see you next
have a
week.
Great one.
Yeah, and live stream. Paul's live stream is right after this. Coding After 30 on
15
YouTube.
minutes.
Yep, sounds good.